Morning, my friends. I'm Pastor Ben Hayes from First Baptist Church, Dadeville, Alabama, bringing you our thought for the day on this magnificent Monday. And I hope it's going to be a magnificent day for you. It will be if you take the time to spend some time in the Word and to honor the Father by telling somebody about His love. Right now, I want you to join me in Hebrews chapter 11 as we've been walking through this roll call of faith. And we've talked about Abel, who offered a more excellent sacrifice. We talked about Enoch, who did not see death because God had taken him and he pleased God. We talked about Noah, who saved his family from the total devastation, and he became an heir of the righteousness of faith. Then we talked about Abraham and Sarah, who trusted God, who believed God, and it was counted to them as righteousness. And of course, he became the father of many nations. What an amazing picture of faith that is. But now we come to verse 13. Paul writes, "These all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off, were assured of them, embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth." You ever felt like you just didn't fit in? That there was just nothing here for you? That's the way Christians ought to be. As we come into faith in Jesus Christ, all of a sudden we become strangers in this land. We're different from the people of this land, and we're outsiders. And our home is not here, it's in heaven. That's what we're talking about here. These all died in faith, not because they'd received the promises. They had been given these promises from God long before they died, but they died in faith because they trusted. They had faith, they had hope, that certainty that it was going to come about. It says, that having seen them afar off, were assured of them. Listen, that is what faith is. We sometimes say, I got to see where I'm going. I got to know what that next step is. Well, that's not faith. Faith is stepping out on nothing and finding something there, because it's always going to be the hand of God. When you're in His will, doing what He's called you to do, following Him, and you put your faith and trust in Him, you can trust Him to say, close your eyes and take 4 giant steps. You don't know what's on the end of that 4th step, but you know He's there. And that's all that matters. They had faith, having seen the promises afar off. They were assured of them. And look at this. They embraced them and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. They knew that they were different because they were followers of God. They knew that they didn't belong here. So what are we talking about here? Well, look at what it says in verse 14. "For those who say such things declare plainly that they seek a homeland. And truly, if they had called to mind that country from which they had come out, they would have had opportunity to return. But now they desire a better, that is, a heavenly country. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for He has prepared a city for them." Look, they never heard the words of Jesus. They never knew the fulfillment of God's plan. But you remember what Jesus said in John 14? He said, "I go to prepare a place for you." Think about that. He goes to prepare a place for you. That's the city that was prepared for them. These Jewish heroes of the faith who trusted God implicitly, who gave their hearts and lives to Him. No, they messed up. They were sinners. They made mistakes, but they gave themselves to Him. Excuse me. But look what it says. They could have gone back. They could have gone back to the country. They would have had opportunity to return if that was their homeland, but they didn't feel that way. They felt like they had left that place and were never going back. But now they desire this better country, this heavenly country. And listen, there's a big statement here. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God. I think that is one of the most interesting phrases in the Bible. God is not ashamed to be called their God. Why? Because they trusted in His promises. They had faith in Him. They followed Him implicitly. You ever think about if God is ashamed of you? He loves you. He loves you unconditionally. There's nothing that you can do that can make Him stop loving you. If our love, if His love depended on our obedience, then we could never be certain of whether He loved us or not. But He loves us in spite of ourselves. But I wonder sometimes if He's really proud of us or if He's ashamed of us. Listen, I want to make God proud. I want to make Him so proud that one day when I walk through those pearly gates, I'm going to hear, "Well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into my rest." Think about that today. It can be yours too. All you have to do is trust Jesus. Be blessed. I'll see you back here tomorrow.